Do you think you're lost? Maybe you're finally on the path you were always meant to take. This is the story of a fox who got lost, and in that very moment, began to find himself. There was a dense forest, so thick with trees that even the sunlight had to fight to touch the ground. On the edge of that forest lived a young fox named Fahad. From a young age, he was different. While other foxes honed their cunning and practiced their hunting skills, Fahad spent hours watching the sky, listening to the wind, or staring into the flowing river, as if trying to hear something no one else could. The elders often said, "That boy dreams too much. He'll never survive in the real world." But Fahad didn't argue. He simply stayed quiet, absorbing everything in silence. Inside, he would wonder, is life truly just about outsmarting others and staying ahead? One day, when the eldest and wisest fox in the tribe passed away, a new leader was to be chosen. All the foxes lined up, showing off their clever tricks, their persuasive words, their sharp minds. Fahad stood at the back, quietly watching. Someone shouted, "Hey Fahad, why so quiet? You can talk just as well as the rest of us." He looked down and replied, "I'm still trying to understand myself. Leadership can wait." That night, something strange happened. Fahad was asleep when he heard a soft sound, like whispering leaves or a distant melody. Curious, he followed it. The deeper into the trees he went, the stronger the sound became, until suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way. He fell. When he awoke, he was in a valley unlike anything he had seen before. The trees were taller, the birds unfamiliar, the scents different. It didn't feel like part of his forest. It felt like another world. "I'm lost," he said to himself. "Or maybe I've been brought here to find something." He tried to go back. For hours he searched for the path he came from, but the landscape seemed to shift, like the forest didn't want him to leave. Tired and confused, he sat on a rock and stared at the sky. That's when a cat approached. A soft, sleek cat with sharp eyes. "You're new here, aren't you?" she asked. Fahad nodded. The cat smiled gently and said, "This valley only reveals itself to those brave enough to get lost." "What do you mean?" Fahad asked. She tilted her head. "When you let go of everything, life gives you what's truly yours." That night, Fahad didn't sleep. He thought about what the cat had said. Maybe this wasn't a trap. Maybe it was a doorway. The next morning, he decided to explore the valley. Every day, he walked a little further. He met animals he had never seen before: a silent turtle, a poetic deer, an old owl with no eyes. Each one taught him something without trying. The turtle said, "You don't have to be fast to go far." The deer said, "Beauty is felt, not seen." The owl said, "I see nothing with my eyes, but I feel everything with my heart." Every word stayed with Fahad. He began writing in the dirt. He drew patterns in the sand. He listened more, spoke less. His mind grew quieter. And in that silence, he started hearing himself. He no longer wanted to return to the forest just to prove others wrong. He wanted to return, only if he could offer something true. He sat under the stars one night and whispered, "Maybe getting lost was the best thing that ever happened to me." Fahad's days were no longer filled with fear or urgency. There was a strange peace in not knowing the next step, a freedom in wandering without a map. He woke with the sun, followed wherever the breeze pointed, and learned from everything around him. He found a stream where the water moved in slow circles. He began spending hours there, watching how even in stillness there was movement, quiet, purposeful, beautiful. One day, while walking through the misty grass, he stumbled upon a group of young birds learning to fly. Their wings flapped clumsily as they crashed again and again, A mother bird stood by, patient and calm. Fahad watched. One bird looked too afraid to even try. The mother nudged it softly and said, "Falling is part of flying." That single sentence sank deep into Fahad's heart. He realized how many times he had feared falling in life, failing in front of others, looking foolish, being misunderstood. But here, in this valley, failure wasn't shameful. It was a teacher, a necessary one. That night, he had a dream. In it, he was climbing a mountain, struggling with every step. At the top, he expected to find a treasure, but instead, he saw a mirror. When he looked into it, he didn't see the confused, quiet fox from the forest. He saw someone wiser, stronger, someone who had been shaped by the journey, not just the destination. He woke up with tears in his eyes. For the first time, he whispered, "I know who I am becoming." But knowing who you are doesn't mean the journey gets easier. Days later, a storm hit the valley. The wind howled like a wounded beast. Trees shook, animals took shelter. Fahad found a cave and sat inside, watching the storm rage. For the first time in weeks, fear returned. What if I never find the way back? What if I'm stuck here forever? And then he remembered the blind owl's words. Those who trust their inner light don't fear the dark. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The storm kept roaring, but something inside him remained still, anchored, whole. When the storm passed, the valley looked different, washed clean, shimmering with dew and promise. And in that moment, he knew he wasn't lost anymore. He decided it was time to return to his forest. Not because he missed it, but because he now carried something worth sharing. But how do you return from a place that doesn't exist on any map? He walked toward the stream again and asked aloud, "How do I go back?" The wind whispered through the leaves, and somewhere in that sound he heard, "The way back is the way forward. You're not the same anymore. You carry the path within you now." He closed his eyes and started walking. And just like that, the valley slowly faded into the mist. The trees around him changed. The scent of the air shifted. And soon, he was back in his forest. But it wasn't the forest that had changed. It was him. The others gathered around, surprised to see him. "Where were you? We thought you were gone. You look different." He smiled, not arrogantly, not shyly, just calmly. "I was lost," he said, "but not really. I was learning to see." The elders were skeptical, but they couldn't ignore his new presence. He didn't boast. He didn't try to lead. He simply listened, helped, and spoke only when needed. And slowly, others began to change too. The younger foxes came to him for stories. The older ones watched in quiet respect. His silence had power. His calm had wisdom. And without ever asking for it, Fahad became the leader they had once doubted he could be. Seasons passed. The forest flourished under Fahad's quiet guidance. One day, a young fox approached him, tears in his eyes. "I feel lost," the little one said. Fahad bent down and whispered, "Good. That means you're ready to find yourself." And that's how the cycle began again. Fahad never told others how to live. He simply reminded them to listen to themselves. He still visited the stream sometimes, still sat under the stars, still wondered at the wind. Because even after all he had learned, he knew the journey never ends. We are always learning, always evolving. Sometimes we must get lost to understand who we are. And when we do, we return not as who we were, but as who we were meant to be. The story tells us that getting lost isn't failure. It's an invitation to discover what the world couldn't teach you, and what noise couldn't reveal. Sometimes life takes you away from the familiar, just to introduce you to your true self. Trust the journey, even when the path disappears.